Okay, I think we are officially live. So,
Oh, yay.
hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to get to chat with one of my all-time favorite booktubers, Petrik Leo. Petrik, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the channel.
Seriously, thank you so much, Tori, for inviting me. Seriously, it means a lot. I mean, I love your channel too, and I get to talk about self-published fantasy book on this live chat. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Really.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I have been wanting to chat self-pub fantasy with you for months, so I'm very excited that we finally made it happen. Hello, everybody in the chat. Hi, Thiago. Hey, Andrew, Cal, Theo.
Hi, Thiago. Theo, hi. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yep, here we go.
Hi,
I'll try and, because I know you probably can't see the chat, so I'll try to make sure I get everybody's comments up for you.
No, I can see it. You put it.
Oh, you can? Okay, cool. I never know what my guests can see and not see. So. Hold
on, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Thanks,
I can see it. I can see the comments.
Okay, and let's see. Best friend Sarah's in the chat. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
She's been my best friend for 17 years, and I've kind of dragged her into the fantasy
book community. 17 years? That's amazing.
Yep. Esme. Oh, thanks,
come on, Esme. Where's your YouTube channel?
Right? It's, you know what, so she mentioned that. I can't remember under what video, but I know, like, she was mentioning, you know, starting a YouTube channel is a bit daunting, to be fair. And I know, like, whenever I tell people, I'm like, oh, start a YouTube channel. I'm like, but I get it.
Yeah, I totally get it. I totally get it. Seriously.
It's so hard. Joe Byrne, JCM Byrne.
Oh yeah. Tiago Abdallah. I mean, isn't that the only pronunciation for this name?
Tiago, I don't know. I went back before I interviewed him. I went back and watched an interview he did with Alan and listened to how he pronounced his name, because I try really hard to make sure that I'm pronouncing my guests' names correctly. But yeah. All right, hey guys, thanks for joining in.
Yeah, totally, Theo. I agree.
It's true. Yeah, I've been on YouTube for 3 years now in January, and I feel like I'm just starting to get to a point where I'm okay with my personality on YouTube. I'm not apologizing for my opinions anymore. Like, I'm finally hitting that point.
Yeah, but I know that starting that the first video is really hard. It was really hard.
It's nerve-wracking for sure. How long have you been on YouTube, Petrik?
2 years. 2 years.
3 years?
2.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah. But I remember that my first video it took me like 6 months to finally post my 2 minutes introduction video. It took me 6 months. It was horrible.
And now we're just like, it's fine. Throw it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. In case anyone is wondering, this is officially how you pronounce Thiago's name.
Yeah, Thiago.
Yep. Oh, hey, Megans. Reading as always. All right. So I want to get started because I'm sure we're going to have a lot of comments in the chat. And guys in the chat, if you have comments for Petrik, feel free to throw them up in the chat and I will work through them as we go. But I kind of want to start with you're kind of pretty well known as a prolific reviewer of self-pub and indie fantasy. And I don't think anybody's in the chat is going to disagree with me on that one, even if you do. But I'm really curious what got you into reading and reviewing self-pub, because I know that you read a lot of traditionally published work as well. And what was kind of the initial, you know what, I want to try and pick up some self-pub authors.
Yeah, so the first time I read through a self-published fantasy book, it was for the title. I think it was The Red Air. I think it was by Holden Johnson. Yeah, I think that was the title. That was in late 2016.
Yeah,
and back then I knew nothing about self-published books, and you know, I am not innocent from saying that this is good for a self-published fantasy book. I am not innocent from that. I think we all have to take that first step. Yeah, I think we all have to take that first step. But I enjoyed that book. Book, but I didn't. It didn't really, let's say, spark my motivation to actually continue perusing self-published fantasy books. And then in 2017, I joined as one of the judge for SPFBO.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was SPFBO 2017. I became a judge on that competition, and I've read plenty of, let's say, not good self-published fantasy books there, and also plenty of really awesome self-published fantasy books. So on that competition alone, I already thought that maybe uh, my initial mindset regarding self-published fantasy book is wrong. I mean, this is just like traditionally published books. I can find plenty of bad books. I can find plenty of great books, and right now I think I can safely say that I can find many amazing books in self-published fantasy books. So many. Yeah, I think that's after doing that SPFBO competition, that was really the trigger for me to search more self-published fantasy books. And after that, also more authors are starting to approach me and asking me to do a review for their books, and I just accept. And after a while, I just don't care anymore about the status of traditional published, self-published. If you want to ask me to review a book, then I will just check whether the cover art strike my interest, and then check the blurb and all that. And then, yeah.
I love that so much, because I feel like as an industry as a whole, and for those of us that are authors, the utopia, if you will, of having traditional published and self-published books, it's all just fantasy. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, this is a great fantasy book and this is a great fantasy book. And I would love to get to a point where, we know if something is trad or self-published, but that's not the immediate, like, this is a great self-pub fantasy book,
But
so
it's kind of because many self-published fantasy books now are really on Kindle Unlimited, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge benefit.
For sure.
Kindle Unlimited is a huge benefit. And I think that's the occasion where it is noteworthy to mention that this is a self-published fantasy book, and which most likely mean that you can use it on Kindle Unlimited. You can find it on Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But really, regarding the quality, I just kind of think of them as the same now. Right now, at this point, I just think of traditional published and also self-published mostly as a business model, but that's it.
Yeah, Andrew reads just a few. Yeah, just a few. There's just a few.
Yeah, right. And you keep on reading so many self-published fantasy books, Andrew.
Ridiculous. I don't understand. Yeah, before we jumped on live, Petrik and I were talking about the ridiculous size of our TBRs for just any kind of fantasy book, but self-pub especially has been crazy. Yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit in the rest of the chat, but I'm really excited to see what's possible in self-pub fantasy now and where it's going, because I think in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be crazy, I think, as far as the explosion of indie and what's going to be possible even moving forward.
I mean, even in the terms of regarding like aesthetic wise, traditional published books has a lot to catch up on now, especially on their hardcover. Seriously, so many to catch up on.
Especially those mismatched spines, right?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Do not get me started on that. I mean, look, self-published fantasy is not safe from that also, but I mean, come on. Traditional published, come on. If a traditional publisher is watching this right now, I'm talking to you here. You have a lot of team here, okay? You have a lot of team, and you have the moment to decide whether these spines will align or not. Come on.
Yes, Andrew, we got Salty Petrik on the channel.
I'm so easily triggered by misaligned spines or changes in cover art. Oh my God, those things never gets old.
Yeah, my best friend is an illustrator and artist, and yeah, she definitely. I've heard lots of triggered mismatched complaints as well from her. So I'm it's funny because I never really noticed it until I got onto BookTube. No, I'm so hard to offend, honestly. I'm just like, it's fine. But I think the one that really got me was the Brandon Sanderson. I have like the new Mistborn Era 2.
Ah,
I
yeah,
have like the smaller UK editions for book 2 and 3, and book 1 is also the same cover and everything, but it's larger. And I'm like, why? Why are there 2 sizes of this? So I get it. Like I'm getting there. BookTube has made me slightly snobbier about what my shelves look like. So Esme wants to know, how important is the cover art for you in deciding to read a book, and how is your TBR surviving now that all the self-pub books are only getting more and more gorgeous?
So these 2 questions, they are definitely related to each other. So because my TBR, there are so many books in my TBR now. I mean, I think the one that I recorded on Goodreads, this is just the one that is recorded. I think there are 700 books. That's the one that I've recorded. Okay. And regarding review requests and also advanced reading copy, right now I'm pretty sure there are about 200 review requests that I have to go through. So yeah, that's a lot. Okay. That's a lot. I will need at least probably the fastest 2 years to read all of them if I don't read any other books other than my review requests. So that's why I think cover art right now, especially if it's a book that I don't know, it matters a lot. It matters a lot in influencing my decision to actually read that book someday. Right. Because I am only 1%. Okay.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I have a short stack of review books right now, and I still feel overwhelmed. I cannot even imagine, and that's, I think, a good note. As an author, sometimes it can be really hard because you're like, oh man, I really wish this person would hurry up and read my book. We're trying. We're trying so hard. Tuffy wants to know what time it is. It's 10 a.m. in the morning for me.
It's 11:12 p.m.
Petrik is much more specific about that than I was.
Yeah, it's 11:12 p.m. here. Oh my god. So sorry.
There's some backstory, there's some history here. I can see.
Yeah, so Andrew has been asking me to collaborate with him on Cradle discussion since the 10th book, which was Reaper. That was published last year. I think it was last year, yeah. And then now we are almost in 2023, and
he is here.
We will do it next year, Andrew. Definitely.
Chris says, often one of the big differences between traditional publishing and self-pub is marketing budget, for sure.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. No denying
budget in general. Yeah, which is one of the cool things. I mean, I think it's a good testament to self-pub authors right now that they're doing such incredibly good quality work with the covers, with the editing and all that, without having, a trad pub budget. That's pretty awesome. So good job, guys.
Yeah, it is.
Totally.
Editing and all that, they are very expensive. So it's kind of understandable why many people would love to pursue traditional publish, because self-publishing is expensive.
It is, and you also don't have to wear all the hats with traditional publishing. You write the book and you send it to the editors, and you don't have to worry about the marketing or the review copies or any of that.
Yeah, it is a one-man business.
It is. Tufty says, my TBR will take me 18 years to read through at my current reading rate. It's only getting worse thanks to BookTube waves. Petrik, yep. Look, Petrik has been ruthless on my TBR as well.
To be fair, because of starting BookTube, my TBR also explodes. So it worked both ways.
It worked both ways, yes.
Yeah.
All right. My second... Hi, everyone. Oh, Johan. Hi, Johan. Hi, everyone. I would love to hear some of Petrik's unpopular opinions, hot takes. Murphy got a couple hot takes out of me on Monday, so.
I just did.
Let's see. I mean, I would totally ask you what a book that you think is overhyped is right now. But don't feel like you have to answer that question. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Why would I be in trouble?
The fandoms are crazy, man. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. overhyped books, the most recent one. Look, every time this topic comes up, I always think Uprooted. I'm so sorry. I hate that
By
book so
naming
much.
of
Yeah, I hate that book so much.
Yeah, it's really fun. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on her books in general. It seems like she's a very polarizing author where people really, really love her books or they really don't jive with them.
Mhm. But I do love Spinning Silver by her.
Spinning Silver.
By Naomi Novik. That was amazing in my opinion. But Uprooted, yeah, that was a total opposite from Spinning Silver.
Yeah. Okay, I'm curious. So going back to your the reviews that you do, your reviews are novels in and of themselves. They're just like they're so well thought out and they're so detailed, and you put so much time and effort into them. So I'm curious about. I'm going to ask you about your writing process. What is your like? How do you go about writing a review? What kind of things do you keep in mind when you're working on them?
Okay, so and I didn't start like this. Okay, just for those of you who love my reviews, seriously, thank you so much. It means a lot to me. It means a lot. But if you go back to my early reviews, you will see like a huge amount of typos, grammatical errors, like misused words, so many. Seriously, I was a newbie, and I basically the one of the reasons why I started writing reviews is for me to practice my English writing. Seriously, that was one of the reasons. And now, after writing for a while, and then I started getting comments on Goodreads, right?
Yeah.
I started getting comments, and then they all, many of them love my reviews. And after getting some comments like that, I started to really, you know what, I really should focus on improving this. And then I started to think about what kind of things that I want to see in a review, what kind of things that I want to read. And it is very simple. I always, if you check my reviews, almost all of them contain what I think of the plot, of the themes, of the characters, like characterizations, and then world building, because I read pretty much fantasy books and sci-fi, right? So world building is always important, and then prose, and that's pretty much it. And then I mentioned my thoughts regarding my overall thoughts regarding the book. But also, if there is a lot of action or not, I definitely will mention that. So after making sure that I always write in these categories, so I never get stuck at writing reviews, even if they're short. But usually I end up writing an essay. Yeah,
I love it. It's even with books that I read, I go back and I look, oh, hey, has Petrik reviewed this? I'm sure. Most likely, yes. But yeah, I mean, if all of us improved, like saw that much of an improvement in writing craft, I think we'd all be exceptionally better writers. So I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Let's see. There's a lot of trad and self-pub comments in the here. Let's see. Flash in the pan sales. While self-pub has more sustainability, trad pub may have a big budget, but they have a short attention span.
I want to make it clear though that I do not hate trad pub. I do not.
No,
Okay,
and that
I know. I love both trad pop and soft pop. I think it is very important that if we want to actually get over this matter of this better than this, we need to stop like comparing them, battling them against each other. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that goes back to my comment earlier about, I think my goal, and I know a lot of goals for a lot of the authors that I've talked to, is really the, less division and more just unity between fantasy authors as a whole, regardless of what, publishing path you choose to take.
Yeah, and lately I've been seeing more of that on Twitter,
Yeah.
and that makes me
awesome.
happy. For example, like Ryan Cahill is chatting with Richard Swan. Those
Yeah.
are one is published, one is traditionally published. That's just one example.
Yeah, and the more of that happens, the more it's going to filter down everywhere else.
Yep.
So again, so on my channel, we would only play Kiss, Marry, Avoid. Andrew, we don't condone violence here, except in the books we read, apparently. Again, Petrik, that's totally up to you if you want to answer that.
Well, what is this?
So you have to pick. It's a game. Andrew, you've put me on the spot here. So it's a game where you choose one of each of these things, and you have to put them into one of those categories. Kiss, marry, or kill / avoid.
What?
I can't believe, Andrew, you're telling me to make Petrik play the game.
Yeah, I am not answering that, Andrew. Okay. No.
Now I've said it. Moving on, Andrew.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hi, Bryce. Thank you.
Hi, Bryce.
Let's see.
Bryce is actually another reviewer that I met from Goodreads.
Yeah, Goodreads, it's amazing to me how it's kind of like a Facebook for book nerds.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, totally agree, Thiago.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, I've watched so many of your videos at this point, and I love hearing you talk about your favorites because you have a very infectious enthusiasm for them, and it's awesome, and very dangerous for everyone's TBRs. But I'm curious to know, what are some of your favorite things in fantasy right now to read, whether that's tropes or character types or plot elements? What do you love to read in a fantasy book right now?
So, pretty much right now, let's say this year, okay? This year, I am really in the mood to read a classic fantasy that is written with a modern narrative. I miss that, okay? Because traditional publish has stopped publishing classic fantasy with a modern twist. They have stopped. I do not know why. I do not know why. I mean, can't you see that Wheel of Time is still immensely popular?
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, that is just one of my issue, okay, with traditional publish. But yeah, right now, this year especially, I am so much in the mood to read classic fantasy with the modern narrative, and that's why this year I've been focusing on reading The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill, because that fits that category. And then also the Echo Saga 9-book series by Philip C. Quantrill, that also fits the category. And yeah, I think those two are really what I'm really in the mood right now. But I'm kind of feeling like, because I am a huge grimdark fantasy reader as well, but this year I've read only a few grimdark novels. I'm just not too much in the mood of it, because last year I read so many grimdark novels, and yeah, this year I'm just kind of feeling I want to take a little break from it. 1 year break somehow. but yeah, but I think there's a good chance that I will get back to it next year. I'm starting to feel like I want to read that morally gray characterizations again. Like right now, I'm reading a Brian Lee Durfee's book. Yeah, Brian Lee Durfee's book. That actually fits both category that I just mentioned. It is grimdark, it is morally gray, and also it fits the classic fantasy that is filled with prophecies, coming of age characters, and all that. I love it. I really love coming of age fantasy. I cannot get enough of it somehow.
So you're reading the third one?
No, I just finished the second book. Now I'm going to read the third book. Yeah,
I have the first and the second one because I know I have quite a few booktuber friends that have been really loving it lately. So I'm excited to read it. So you mentioned coming of age, which is a big favorite of mine too. What are some of your favorite coming of age fantasies?
Oh, there's a lot here. Okay.
I'm asking all the hard questions today.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that popped to my mind is like the Kingkiller Chronicle, obviously. And then there's also Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan.
Yes, I have that one's high on my TBR.
Yeah, I really love Bloodsong. And then also, of course, The Realm of the Underlings by Robin Hobb. I definitely have to mention that. Also, The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. And then, look, I can talk about this all day.
You do a whole video on coming of age.
There are so many.
That's fair. Andrew mentioned fantasy westerns. I have definitely noticed that western vibes are definitely coming in to fantasy quite a bit this year.
Okay, I have to disagree on this because my unpopular opinion. Okay, Johan, if you're watching this right now, yes, you're getting one here. I am not a fan of western at all. I am not a fan of western. I think every time I read a western story, I get bored really, really fast. The biggest investment that I've ever had with a western fantasy novel, it was for Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. But even that one, I still consider that to be Abercrombie's weakest book, in my opinion. I'm just not a fan of the setting, like the desert and the cowboy hat and all that. I don't know. I'm just not a fan. I'm so sorry.
That's fair. Hey, like, yeah, it's funny because I think oftentimes as reviewers, in the beginning, for me at least, it was a struggle to like, I only want to read things that I love because I don't want to sound like I don't like anything. And at this point I'm like, yep, there are things that I don't like chosen one tropes. I'm over it. Like, you know, there's always going to be things that don't jive with us as readers.
We cannot love everything. It's
we
impossible.
Can't love everything.
Yeah, it's impossible.
No. When I listen to booktubers, I tend to pick up on keywords that tweak my interest. Currently, you just have to mention heist and I'm hauling the book. Yeah, that's fair. Heists are great. Mm-hmm. I know Tufty is reading Lies of Locke Lamora right now, or has recently finished, I think. So I'm very excited to hear
that is still one of the best heist fantasy to this day, in my opinion. So good.
So good. Also one of the best bromances in fantasy of all
time.
Yeah,
absolutely. Lock Engine is awesome.
So good. Shad says, I love Petrik's reviews. He got me to read so many series.
Thank you, man. Welcome.
Well, for my experience, like when I came back to BookTube, whenever that was, June-ish, I took a massive break between 2021 and 2022. And when I came back, Petrik was the one who got me into indie and self-pub. That was the initial kind of catalyst, because I wanted to do BookTube again. I wanted to read more fantasy, but I hadn't really delved back into the self-pub arena. I've been in it since I was about 14, 15, because I was an author. But back then, compared to now, completely different vibes. So it was really exciting when Petrik was showing these beautiful books that were by self-pub authors. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm here for it. Let's do it. So that was kind of my springboard back into indie fantasy.
I really loved, I think this moment kind of worked as a catalyst. And I'm not saying that these two books are the first one that did this, but Dreams of the Dying and also Dragon Mage, those two are the first one that I showcased in the early stage of my channel. And those hardcovers are so beautiful. They're so beautiful. And then when we open the naked hardcover, the dust jacket, we see the naked hardcover with just the cover art, and that started to become a trend. At least that's what I noticed after those two books. And I love it. I love it so much. I do not like when we get Chatpub books and then we open the dust jacket and then that's it. It's plain black, nothing. This is your chance to put something else here.
Make it like unwrapping a present.
Yeah,
I'm actually about 9 chapters into Dragon Mage right now. It's a buddy read I'm doing with a friend of mine, and I'm already completely sold on the book. I think it's amazing, even 9 chapters in. I love it.
That's good.
It's really good. Yes, if you like heist, check out Blood of Crows. That is by Alex Pierce.
I haven't heard of that book.
I have it on my TBR simply because it is a heist book, and that is also a keyword that catches me very quickly. It's a fairly new-ish self-pub.
I haven't
guys,
heard of that
remind me who the author is. I'm drawing a mind blank, and I feel horrible. All right, let's see. Ronin Saga.
I have that on my TBR. This is another example of the author who have sent me the books. Like, I'm sorry if you're watching this, Matthew. So Matthew Wolf, the author behind Ronin Saga, has sent me this entire series probably last year. It was last year, and I still haven't gotten around to reading it. I'm just my TBR, my review request is really stacked.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Bryce wants to know your opinions on Dark Tower, going back to the
Western. I do not think I can give a fair opinion on this because I actually read Gunslinger. The first book, it was the Gunslinger. I read the Gunslinger like I think when I was still a kid. I do not remember anything about it, and I just do not understand. I just didn't understand any single thing about the book. But to be fair, my English back then was really bad. I'm still in the process of learning English because remember that this is my third language. So yeah,
it's pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, it is Alex Pierce. Thank you, Tuffy. Let's see. I'm so far behind on comments. I'm trying to. Tufty says, well remembered, ToriTalks. I finished Lies of Locke Lamora just the other day. I loved it. Yes. All right. This is a great question. I actually ran up against this recently too, and I think it's a great question. Do you ever struggle to give an honest review with an author that you know?
At first, yes. Obviously, at first, yes. But right now, I think I'm just going to assume that many authors who have actually approached me know that they want my honest review. I don't think it is. I don't think it will be fair anyway if I actually give, you know what? Here's a pity cookie for you. I think it will be fair for them. Okay, right? I mean, if you want, even if a sub-pub authors, like let's say they want to battle against trad pub authors, then they have to receive the same treatment, and the
Yep.
same treatment is actually to give them an honest review, as honest as possible. I mean, of course, you can actually, I mean, you don't need to say like, oh my god, this book should go into the recycle bin. Yeah, do not.
Right.
No need to say something like that. But honesty can be given without being offensive. Like let's say like, yeah, this part didn't click with me, and unfortunately this part didn't click. I mean, that's I think many authors will understand that not all books are for everyone.
Right.
So yeah, and when an author I know actually approached me asking me for a review, I'm going to assume that they already know that they're not expecting instantly positive review.
5 stars.
Yeah. Yeah. But there are indeed some sub-pub authors who actually approach me like that, and that's giving bad name to sub-pub authors. Okay, do not approach me by saying that here's a book for you. I'm giving you the privilege to actually read my book. Oh wow, seriously, I'm so proud of you. Seriously, and then I expect that you give this book a 5 stars. Like, who are you?
Yeah. Well, and it's hard because I think that, like you said, it actually hurts self-pub to do it that way, because if you're saying, well, we should get, a slightly buffered star rating, then we as a self-pub community are not continually learning and growing and bettering the quality of the books that we're putting out. And when we do better ourselves and we do get those honest feedback reviews, it helps everyone because we're all being, lifted up in quality at the same time. So yeah, totally agree.
I mean, like let's say Ryan Cahill. I am a friend with Ryan Cahill. I'm not gonna lie about that, and I am a friend with Ryan Cahill. But the first book I gave it, I think it was 3.5 or maybe 4 stars. I gave that, and Ryan Cahill didn't mind at all.
Yeah.
But I read the second book. I love it so much, and well, I gave it a positive rating. Simple as that.
Yeah. Well, and I think as a reviewer, you have to get to the point too where you can say, instead of just saying this is a bad book, it's more like recognizing subjectively this part of the book doesn't work for me as a reader, and here's why.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being this is objectively bad. Like that's a big difference too, because there are certain, like if somebody sends me a book that's heavy chosen one trope, it's going to have to be incredible for me to give it a 5 star, just because that's not my trope, and that's not their fault. That's just my preference as a reader.
Yeah. So exactly.
Yeah. Everything is so subjective. Andy Witham is here with us, the Legend of Blackjack author. He says, how many books does Petrik have on his TBR at any given point? You said 200 physical copies?
I actually have your book here. Hold on.
I have his book over there. Whoop, right there.
The Legend of Blackjack. Yeah, so
That's
I haven't read this book.
Two completely opposite corners of the universe. We've got Minnesota and Jakarta, Indonesia.
Blackjack. All around the world.
That's awesome.
My TBR, I don't know how many physical books I have in my TBR. I don't know how many ebooks. I do not want to count my ebooks TBR. I do not want to count that.
Let's see. Web novels a popular thing, or is Amazon Kindle the ruler of all ebooks?
Are web novels a popular thing, or is Amazon Kindle the ruler of all ebooks? This is a bit tricky. I know that web novels is a niche, but web novels is also super popular. I mean, just take a look at The Wandering Inn by Pirate Abba. Yeah, that series is 10 million words long now.
I can't believe that. Whoa.
Pirate Abba has written twice the number of published books by Brandon Sanderson. All published books by Brandon Sanderson. He has written, Pirate Abba has written twice the word count. It is insane.
I can't even fathom that as a writer. Like, I can't imagine wanting to be in the same world for 10 million words. I mean, maybe, but that's a lot. I know, Shad, I know that Petrik has a self-pub. I think you have a video on that, don't you?
Yeah, I did. You can see that video.
Yeah. I know you mentioned Bound in the Broken was one that you were enjoying recently.
I actually haven't done any favorite self-pub series. I think the only video I have on a self-pub topic, it was favorite self-pub books. Yeah, I think that was
series?
Yeah, but I've never done any series. This is a good prompt though.
There you go.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
We'll see it in the next month. Petrik will put out.
Yeah.
Same treatment is to give them an honest review. Yep, absolutely. Yep, that's very true, Andy. Reviews aren't for the authors; they're for the people considering the book. Absolutely. Yeah, they're like,
and
if the book.
Of course it is. But the thing is, when it comes to reviews, we always have to remember that none of us are actually we are not the truth. Okay, if I do not like a book, that doesn't mean that okay, this book is indeed really bad. That is not the case. Despite some people's popularity, it doesn't mean that way. Still, in the end, there's still one person reviewing a book, and their opinion is an opinion of one person.
Right.
So that's something to always remember.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think we kind of gravitate toward having our favorite trusted booktubers or friends who are like, okay, I know that if Petrik recommends this kind of a book, I will probably like it just based on, having read others that you've recommended or whoever. So I think, that's, you see people kind of gravitating towards specific booktubers or reviewers for that reason.
Yeah. Like, for example, Andrew. I think Andrew mentioned that. I remember that Andrew mentioned that he loved Wistful Ascending by J.C. M. Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
So when because of that, I was definitely interested in reading Wistful Ascending, which I still haven't read yet.
I just pulled it for a review, and now I don't know where it is. I was going to hold it up. I don't know where it is. Sorry, Joe. But yeah, it's definitely like, especially when people get to know you as a reader, like I have not read Legend of Blackjack yet. And it is one of the books that everybody's like, Tori, you need to read this book. This is completely in your wheelhouse with all of the things that you love in it. So I'm excited because of that, because people have started to, they know what I like now. And they're like, this is a good one. Thiago, so what you're saying is you're not supposed to block everyone who doesn't give your 5 stars. Correct. I mean, Thiago, you can do whatever you want. But.
I mean, it is up to you. You will be blocking plenty of people after a while.
Yeah.
Because we cannot please everyone, okay? We cannot please everyone.
Well, and to be perfectly honest, just, from my own opinion, I would prefer getting like a 3.5, 4-star review with like a written out explanation than a 5-star with nothing. Because I like to know, like, well, what was it about the book that you liked and didn't like? And because that helps me as an author just to kind of get a gauge on what's working and not working for people.
Yeah.
Whoops. Tufty, I have to confess that I don't want to read reviews in case of spoilers. I like impressions, and hearing the joy in somebody's voices on BookTube is usually enough for me. Yep. Infectious enthusiasm works.
That's understandable.
Yep. Let's see. Started reading The Wandering Inn. Fazila. Hi, Tori and Petrik. Hey, Fazila.
Hi, Fazila.
Mm-hmm. I love these types of videos. I actually want to do one on my channel talking about if you like this classic, try this fantasy.
Yeah. I need to do more videos like this.
Yeah,
I just did my first one. Yeah, I just did my first one. Was it this month or last month? Oh, this month is December already. So last month.
Yeah. Joe Byrne, reviewers are the only chance us indies have to be successful. I owe Andrew and others a great deal. I mean, I think that's the cool part. One of the things I love about the indie fantasy community, and I don't know, Petrik, if you would have something to say to this as well, but the collaborative side of the indie fantasy. I mean, there's a really cool relationship that happens between the authors, the reviewers, the readers, and it's all kind of this little village around each book, which is really cool.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It is easier to talk to self-published authors rather than traditional published authors. But I have become friends with a few pulp authors as well that I know that I have read their books and love their books. Otherwise, I do not think it is a good idea to become friends with either way with authors in general. I don't think it's really a good idea to become friends unless we have read and love their books. Sorry to say, I mean, it just, I don't want to make things awkward. Okay, if I do not like your books, I just do not want to make things awkward. I mean, in the end, sometimes one of your books can, well, I cannot click with everyone. Okay,
right.
So it is the harsh truth.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I think, I mean, I have a philosophy and rule on my channel that I won't interview anyone that I haven't read their book, because to me, it's like, I want to be able to ask really good questions. There's no way that I'm going to be able to have like a really good in-depth conversation with the author if I've never read their books.
Yeah.
So, and I think that kind of goes back to like why you want to have the author or chat with the author or be friends with the author. Because if it's just for their name, you know, like, oh, I'm friends with, so-and-so, and yeah, awesome. Let's see. Petrik's series of crowdsourced favorite SFF has been giving me a long list of books to haul. If there are this many people rating Richard Nell, for example, then I will go take a look. Is that Kings of Ash?
Yeah. Ash and Sand trilogy. That trilogy is awesome. Amazing trilogy.
That one. I've been a little intimidated by the chonkiness factor, but yeah, I know that one's I've been hearing a lot about that. That's very nice of you to say, Joe.
Thank you so much.
I think like we said, it's a village for sure. Let's see. I only read Daniel T. Jackson because Petrik recommended it despite the cover. I trust Petrik forever now.
Yeah, I talk about this with Daniel too. I'm not a fan of the cover art of Illborn. I don't think it actually captured what's so good about the book. That's just my opinion though. But what matters more, I guess, is that the inside is pretty good.
Covers are important though. And I mean, you do a great job. One of the things I loved so much getting into your channel was the fact that you don't just rush into what the book's about. You talk about the cover and you name the cover artist. And I think that's awesome, because I don't think we do enough of that, because the cover artists are like, they're champions.
they are important. If I see a cover reveal and there is no cover artist being mentioned, that usually kind of irk me. Okay, so I usually will ask, so who's the cover artist or something like that. I think it is very important to at least mention them. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because they're a huge part of what sells our book for us. So that's, you got to get the person inside the book before they can start reading it.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen plenty of reviews like that.
Yeah, yep.
A bunch of time travelers, really.
Chris wants to know, does your wife like to read as well?
Oh, mine? Yeah, she does. She read pretty much sci-fi and romance. So yeah, but we kind of connected in the sci-fi category though. So yeah,
few buddy reads every year.
Yeah, about 1 or 2 books.
Yeah. My husband, he's a big reader too, but he tends to go more towards the kind of like really philosophical fantasy. And like he loves Gene Wolfe. He's a big Gene Wolfe fan.
Oh, I need to read that. I really need to read that.
He has poor Ben. He has a cube for his TBR on my he reads so much slower than I do. So he's like, I just want one. Everything else is Tori's TBR. But yeah, he's a big fan of like Neil Gaiman and Gene Wolfe and like more kind of like conceptual fantasy kind of stuff. What is he reading right now? The Raven's Mark by Ed McDonald.
Yeah, I've read only the first book. I haven't continued with the series yet.
Well, he must like it because he didn't read anything in between those. He just went book 1, 2, 3 right away. So I was like, all right. So that's pretty impressive. So one of the things that kind of goes back to a little bit of the keeping trad and self-pub on the same playing field when we're talking about reviews and things like that. You have a video, self-pub versus trad pub fantasy, that I watched yesterday. And in it, you made a really awesome and very interesting comment about how there's kind of a double standard when it comes to how people look for mistakes within self-pub books versus trad pub. And I think that was a really good point to make, because I've seen a lot of that too, where people are like, oh, there's some typos in here. It's like,
oh, there's some typo as expected of a self-pub
Brandon Sanderson has typos. I found them.
Oh, not only him. Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time is filled with typos. Okay.
Yeah. So I just thought that was a really good point, because I do think people. I mean, have you found that typically people go into self-pub books looking for errors more than they do with trad pub?
Well, I think that this goes back to the first thing that I mentioned earlier in that we have to take that first step, okay? Because I think many of us are automatically prejudiced against self-pub at first, okay? At first. But whether those readers manage to move on past that or not, it's up to them. But I think we have to move on past it, because in the end, it's still a book. It's still a book. And I think many self-pub fantasy authors know right now how important it is to edit their books first before releasing to the public. I think right now they know about it. But this double standard, regarding this aspect, I do not think this will actually go away anytime soon, unfortunately, because let's just take, for example, The Five Warrior Angels by Brandy Durfee. Yeah, the book that you have right now, The Forgetting Moon, the physical copy, that and the sequel, there are plenty of typos. Whether it's in the chapter list, whether it's in the narrative, there are plenty of typos. I don't see a single review mentioning that. Not even one. Not even one.
Yeah.
But once people know that this is self-pub, you know what will happen. So for a self-pub book, it was really good. I didn't spot any typos, something like that.
Or I remember when I was writing when I was younger, people were like shocked almost, or surprised, like, oh, it's a decent book. like you know, it's interesting to see. And that's something that I feel like, 10, 15 years ago is still, it's less than it was then, but it's definitely still there. We're working on it, guys. We're working on it.
I think in the end, what matters, as always, is just to prove that your book gets as good as possible. I think that's always the best way to actually convince people, because that's how I was convinced by reading plenty of great self-published fantasy books.
Yeah. Well, and in the end, if it's not, if the book typos or errors are not so bad that you cannot read, if it's clean enough and you just find a couple typos here and there, the story should I'm not going to pay any attention to that.
And there is one benefit of becoming a self-pub author. You can always fix your typos.
Right.
You can always. Yep. So back then, right now, not too many self-pub authors actually asked me to do this, but back then, like let's say 2018 or 2019, almost all the self-pub authors who somehow approached me to review their books, they mentioned that if you spot a typo, because I'm reading an arc, right? Like let's say Patronus Trilogy by Dirk Ashton.
Yeah.
So I got an arc for the book, for the second book and also the third book. And Dirk immediately asked me, if you spot a typo, please let me know immediately so that I can fix that. No harm done.
Yeah. Yep. Part of that's just an openness. Like, hey, I want to hear about typos because I want to know they're in there.
Yeah.
Hi, Bo.
Hi, Bo.
Fazila. Thank goodness my husband doesn't read books like I do, or else we will be forever fighting for shelf space. Yeah. Same. My husband just reads a lot slower than I do, so he doesn't need as much shelf space. This is a good question. What is the book that got both of you into self-pub initially? I think, Petrik, you mentioned at more towards the beginning of the chat, a book that
No,
you
that book was the first self-pub fantasy novel that I read, but it didn't really spark my love for reading self-pub novel. But the books that really made me start to peruse more self-pub books, it was okay, this was Beyond Redemption. So Beyond Redemption is actually traditionally published, but the sequel is not. The Mirror's Truth by Michael R. Fletcher. That book is not traditionally published. That book is self-published. And then I also read Ascending Ascents by Josiah Bancroft, which was initially self-published, and then also Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew Rowe. So I read those three books, and then I thought, wow, these are actually pretty good, seriously. so yeah, I started reading more self-pub books since then.
Yeah. For me, I'm trying to remember what the first self-pub book I read this year. I'm pretty sure. I mean, the one when I first came back, and I again, I have read tons of self-pub books in general from when I was in it years ago, but coming back into it now, I would say this one was a huge one. This is definitely going to be in my top 10 for the year. I love this book.
I love Never Die. Never Die was amazing.
So that was, I think, one of the first ones that I picked up this year, and honestly, it was the cover. And shout out to Felix Ortiz. And it was, I mean, I love Asian inspired fantasy to begin with. I grew up on, anime and, samurai legends and all that kind of stuff. So I love anything.
Yeah.
Love it. We could have an entire conversation about anime and manga. That would be fun to do sometime.
Yeah, totally.
But like Kenshin was one of my, big influences reading and watching when I was growing up. So anything with a katana on the cover, I will read it.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, Kenshin definitely sparked my interest for samurai too.
Yeah.
His Sakabato was so cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's an amazing character. And the story in general, I mean, Kenshin's such a great reluctant hero character, which is one of the tropes that I love to read about. And he's the duality of that character is just amazing.
And the redemption theme in that series is just phenomenal. The redemption theme.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've seen the prequel OVA that
I did.
Truth and Betrayal.
Yeah.
That's my favorite anime of all time is those 4 episodes easily.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece.
It's amazing.
You get a chance to nerd out a little bit about our manga and anime up here. Hey, Vaughn. Vaughn says, the nice thing about having typos and arrows pointed out as a self-pub author is that I can fix them for future years.
Yeah,
yep,
exactly. I have your book here. Hold on. It's a stack. Ta-da!
Somewhere in the stack, it's in there. Yeah. We're gonna have, by the time the video's done, Petrik will have a whole line down the back of his. Let's see. Tufty is sometimes hard to tell when a book is self-published or not. Many I remember, but often simply won't have a clue. Yeah. Spiffbo is a pretty major exposure machine for self-pub in indie. I think it's amazing, and a huge thank you and shout out to Mark Lawrence for heading that up, because it's been an incredible gift, I think, to the indie community.
Yeah, it's 8 years now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think I was in SPFBO 4. Was it 4 or 3? Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
I was not around. Everybody was talking about this acronym everywhere on the internet. And I was like, what is that? I can finally say the acronym correctly now. Michael J. Sullivan was my first that sold me on self-pub.
Oh, yeah. The Rairia books, they are self-pub as well at first.
It's another great bromance.
Yeah.
Royce
and Hadrian.
Yep. I read the Rairia Revelations earlier this year.
Yeah, did you love it?
I did. Yeah. I mean, there were a few things that didn't fit for me, but overall, I think the first book I really had a hard time with.
Yeah, me
too. I almost didn't. And it was actually, again, your video, because I wasn't going to finish the series. And then I watched your video on it, and you said, I really had a hard time with the first book, but the second and third ones are really good.
The first 2 books are first read that one. okay, I just didn't get why people keep on raving about this series back
Yeah.
then. And then after I reached the ending, and now I just can't get enough of Royce and Hadrian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, okay, Petrik, all right, I will give it a chance. so I started book 2, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better, and there's so much more. There's more Royce and Hadrian, and that's always great. So
Yeah.
Let's see. I grab another question by Tufty. There are so many just utterly incredible, high quality special editions being released. Yes. Do you have a threshold that will cause you to upgrade your copy of a book? So like, how do you decide to invest money in, like, I love this book enough to buy the expensive special edition of it?
I think for this one, it will really have to be favorite books. Seriously, it will have to be, because these are not cheap, and there are now pretty much special edition being announced every week. Yeah, you cannot buy every one of them.
Yep. Yeah, that was really hard, because I was like, I know I want to buy a special edition. I don't know what I have to pick one, because I can't, like, there's so many of them. Ben Galley's edition, second to Kickstarter, came out, and that was beautiful. And Sewell came out, and that's beautiful. I did get Chago's hardcover signed Touch of Light from Broken Binding, but the only other one that I've done so far is Sword of Kaigen, which I haven't even read yet, which is horrible, because I know that's another one that I'm gonna love. But
I love that book so much.
I can't wait to read it. Yeah. So do you do that? This is something I do. Like, I know I'm gonna love Sword of Kaigen, so I've kind of saved it for a rainy day.
Oh, I do that a lot.
I do that all the time. I'm like, I know I'm gonna love this, so I'm gonna keep it for a moment when I'm like hating reading for a couple weeks. And like,
yeah. I do that. I do that quite a lot, actually. Quite a lot.
Yeah. Do you have one that you're saving for a rainy day right now?
Right now, I think at the top of the list, it is the Sun Eater series by Christopher
yeah,
Rogier.
same.
Yeah, because so many people said that if I love the Kingkiller Chronicle and the Red Rising saga, I'm gonna love that. So that's all I need to hear, seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the first book down there too.
Yeah, I've been saving it, but I think I will definitely get to it next year. I don't think I can postpone it any longer. Yeah.
I'm hoping that one, Dandelion Dynasty, I want to get to next year. I'm gonna try and reread Malazan next year. Because I've only ever gotten up to the beginning of book 5. So I want to finish out the series next year.
I mean, even for Dandelion Dynasty, I actually saved that series for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had the Grace of Kings and the Wall of Storms in my TBR since 2017, and I just didn't get to it until this year. So yeah.
I'm really saving it for a rainy day. Yeah. Well, I really hope that I don't anticipate saving Kaigen for 5 years. We'll find out. I'll probably read it next year.
Don't do that.
No, I won't.
Don't wait too long.
I kind of hit a little bit of a reading slump this last month, and I've been doing some, I think for December, I have like 2 books that I want to get to that are self-pub authors that I know. And then other than that, I think I'm going to do some like comfort rereads for December and just, kind of re-spark for next year. Let's see. Bryce does the same thing. Yep. International readers will have a hard time getting their hands in those special editions. I know Petrik, you have a hard time with that too.
That's why I'm really grateful. Seriously, many some sub-pub authors many sub-pub authors send me their books, and I'm always grateful for every one of them. Even after I always said that I do not know when I can get to your books. I do not know. I simply do not know. It's all up to my reading mood. Seriously, It's all up to my reading mood. And still, they send me their physical copy, even though I told them an ebook would be okay. But still, I think that's why, seriously, sub-pub authors can be super generous and awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I even I know I have a bunch of friends in Canada as well, and even shipping between the US and Canada is ridiculous. It's really frustrating. You'd think it's 2022. Shipping books anywhere in the world should not be this difficult or expensive.
It's so expensive.
Crazy. Let's see. I'm totally reading from my script right now. Sorry guys, super professional. So one of the questions I want to go back to is what what makes a book a 5-star read for you? Like what does it have to have that just really pushes it into that 5-star category?
Sometimes it's really just vibe. Really, if I absolutely love a book, I couldn't put it down thoroughly. Sometimes I do not even care about the flaws anymore when that happens. And when that happens, well, I most likely will give it at the very least of 4 stars. At the very least, yeah, that's at the very least, and most likely it will be a 4.5 stars out of 5 stars. But I think honestly, I think there's this fixation that 5 stars will have to be an absolutely perfect book, and well, it's all up to each reader. I do not judge your criteria for rating books, but that's not me. That's not me. If I love a book, if it's like a favorite, that's it. 5 stars. Here you go. It's simple as that. I do not need to be okay. This is only for my top 10 books. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not something like that.
Well, and I don't know for you, sometimes my ratings change after like I've read the book, and then if I'm still thinking about it and still talking about it and loving it, like Never Die, I originally gave a 4-star, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to move that up because I am a couple months later, I'm still like, I want to read it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think standing the test of time also is a big one for me.
Yeah, that's an important criteria for me as well. Like after a while, and then you suddenly think that I want to reread this again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's usually a very good sign. That's a very good sign.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, talking about things we love in fantasy, in your opinion, what is something you think we need more of in fantasy right now?
Like the content, or
something? Like what is something you'd like to either something that you think we need more of as far as plot elements or inspiration for different books? Like what would you like to see more of in the
I think something like this is kind of good here. Okay, I'm going to show off one more sub-plot books. Go
for it. Absolutely. I don't have enough shelves.
This is 11th Cycle. So
yes.
I haven't read this book yet. But in the front page, hold on. So over here, Kian Ardalan mentioned immediately the kind of content that will appear on this book, like the kind of dark content that will appear on this book. And he mentioned how this is not done for the sake, like grimdark for the sake of being grimdark. This is not done for that. And I think it is worth it to actually put something like this in the front of the book. That's one. And if we're speaking about traditionally published fantasy, then I will go back to the topic that I just mentioned. I think we shouldn't immediately dismiss classic fantasy. Yeah. I mean, it is for a good reason. They are a classic. I mean, it's kind of crazy that if I want to read a classic fantasy with a modern style now, I have to go to soft pop. Definitely, I have to go to soft pop books because in trad pop books, they don't have many of them now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I have right now in my mind? Probably The Amber Blade by Chris Wooding, and then Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. And then what else? Nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. They really dismiss an entire classic.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think so many of us have, the nostalgia, right, for classic books. A lot of us grew up on, a lot of those very classic fantasy like Narnia and Lord of the Rings and all of that. And it's fun. It gives you kind of that a little bit of what we had in the initial, I'm learning to love fantasy feel, right? We get a lot of that still from the classic stories. And I totally agree. I think that's something that we should just have that constantly all the time. Just continue to write really good modern fantasy inspired by classic fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, right now we are in a period of time where I think fantasy is just so diverse and so varied. There are so many types of fantasy now, and I think that is an amazing thing. But with that in mind, then why dismiss the classic that started it all in the first place?
Right.
It's just weird, in my opinion. Okay, and soft-pop fantasy authors has proven that these still sold really well.
Yes.
Okay? Yep. So sales is really not a good reason to say that these books are not selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you read? These are two right away when you mentioned loving classic fantasy. Have you read Thiago's Touch of Light yet?
No.
Deathless Beast by Andrew Meredith is the other one that I was going to mention right away because I wanted to put those on as like I've read Touch of Light. This one I feel like really what I loved about it was I think it will appeal to both modern readers and readers who love a little touch of that classic fantasy still. And I know Andrew is a writer who is very, very heavily inspired by a lot of the classic style fantasy, but told in a way that's like more philosophical and modern.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I agree with you that I think, you know, just from the authors that I know, I was immediately like, oh yeah, here's some great books for people that love, and I think that's something that moving the trad publishing sphere seems like it's taking notice a little bit more, like, oh, we have to start paying attention to what's going on in indie and self-pub now. So you never know, maybe if we continue to show that that's sellable and being written, that maybe the trad pubs will, I'm probably hoping for a lot, but you never know.
I guess we'll find out eventually. I mean, even lately, I saw that Orbit Books and also Harper Voyager have started releasing their own special edition for a book, even if it's a classic one. But yeah, they've started to release their own special edition, which is more common, I think, in self-pub books like that right now due to Kickstarter.
Right.
Yeah.
So right now, who are your and you've kind of mentioned this a little bit, but I want to know, who are some of your favorite self-pub authors and what you think they're doing really well?
So Ryan Cahill is certainly doing amazingly well right now. And then there's, of course, Philip C. Quintrell. And also, I love what M.L. Wong did with The Sword of Kaigen. I absolutely loved it. I think M.L. Wong did something truly, let's say that, traditionally published fantasy will not publish a book like Sword of Kaigen. It is so different. And I think she did so many things right, in my opinion, with The Sword of Kaigen. And that's why it hit with a lot of readers. And then, oh my God, there is so many authors. Yeah, but yeah, there are so many authors. And I think I have a good feeling that this will become some of my favorite as well after I read through them. And yeah, I have made it my determination to actually read more self-pub books next year, because there are so many that I'm lagging behind here, right? Because right now I'm in the middle of reading Echo Saga, which is 9 books long. So yeah, 9 books. That series is 9 books long alone. So for those of you who are self-pub authors and you're asking, why aren't your books getting reviewed? Blame Philip C. Quintrell. Seriously, blame him. Yeah.
He's a very nice guy.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying this.
Yeah, I saw he had just had his cover reveal for a new book come out, and it's the one where, you know, the character, he's got his blindfold and there's werewolves everywhere, and I was like, that is a cover right there. It's beautiful. Yeah, that's Chris McGrath, isn't it?
Yeah, Chris McGrath. Yeah. Chris McGrath is a great artist. I also want to read just Speak of the Devil. How did you make that appear? I just want to mention I also want to read JCM Byrne novel.
Yeah, Joe's complaint is we need more superheroes in fantasy, and
yeah, that's because I don't think there's many superhero fantasy or sci-fi novel in the Western market. Yeah, I don't think there are many of them, and yeah, I think we need more of them. We need more superheroes.
Yep. Joe's the trendsetter over here. Yes, agree. That cover is
so badass. Love it so much.
So gorgeous. Love it. Andrew, totally agree. Yep. Let's see. Making sure I'm not missing anyone's. Zach Argyle's in the chat. I 100% agree about TradPub not publishing something.
I also need to read Zach Argyle's books. It has been on my TBR for
this whole chat is just make Petrik feel bad about his TBR.
So many books that I want to read. Seriously,
it's so hard. Well, that's part of it's a good testament to how many good books are being put out right now. You know, so take comfort, guys. If we were DNFing and everything and moving through our TBRs very quickly, that would be a bigger problem.
Yeah, I know that is a big problem.
Joe Byrne said, yeah, because Joe has Chris McGrath on his cover as well for Wistful.
Oh yeah, his cover art is done by Chris McGrath as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bo.
Bo is a massive Wistful Ascending fan.
Fingers crossed next year. That's all I can say. Fingers crossed.
Nice Guy Echo Saga is awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I just
Yeah.
bought the first book, and I was a little, so whenever there's just a ton of books out by the same author, and he has multiple series out now too, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think 2 fantasy and 1 sci-fi. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's his series right now.
Yeah, I sent him a message on Twitter and I said, okay, have never read your books before. Where do I start? So, yeah, it's Rise of the Ranger.
Rise of the Ranger. Yeah.
Rise of the Ranger.
That's another Chris McGrath cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also gorgeous. Yeah, I love the covers. They're beautiful. Tufty, what do you buy the first book in a new author or series, or take a risk and haul an entire series all at once? Good question.
I think I more often take a risk.
How'd the book buying ban go, Petrik?
Right now it's going quite well, but
good.
I just couldn't resist. I mean, I own the first book, and then what if I read the first book and then I want to read the second book immediately, and I don't have it? So, you know what? I buy the second book, and then I buy the third book, and then voila, a trilogy.
And then if you love the first one, and then you have to order the second one, and I'm assuming in Indonesia it would take a while for the book to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So I might as well just get it now, because it is quite a while before I can get the next book, unless I'm reading from ebooks. Okay.
Yeah. I recently got a Kindle Paperwhite, and I'm learning. I'm converting to a ebook reader slightly. I love having a physical book. It's really hard for me to read ebooks, but I'm getting there.
I think after a while you will get used to it, and then you will realize, just like me, that, well, we cannot live without Kindle now.
Yep. Well, it definitely saves on having to have my entire bedroom taken over by bookshelves, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. So last question from me was, recommend a couple of newer self-pub authors for the chat that you think are authors to watch, that you think are going to be up and coming stars for the indie community.
So I haven't read Thiago Abdallah's books yet, but I think Thiago is doing quite well right now. I mean, even on Reddit, a lot of people are mentioning his book, and that is a good thing. But I know that this will sound very repetitive, but I also want to give a shout out once again to Philip Sequential, because there is something of a weird thing going on with his books here. I mean, his books sold so many books on Amazon, but somehow not many people talk about his books in the community. It is just mind-boggling to me, just mind-boggling. Seriously, when we compare, let's say, Ryan Cahill and also Philip Sequential, more people are talking about Ryan Cahill's books rather than Philip Sequential somehow. And it is kind of crazy. So I want to give a shout out to those of you, if you love classic fantasy, please give Philip Sequential's books a try. And I think there are many other sub-pub authors that will immediately rise through the genre hopefully immediately, sooner than later, because I think many sub-pub authors are doing things right now.
Yeah. So as a complete newbie to Philip Quaintrell and as a experienced veteran of his series, what would you say I am in for? Like, what can I look forward to in that series?
Definitely lovable, reluctant heroes. That's definitely you will find plenty of them there.
Excited.
And then so, but also prophecies is one of the key things in the Echo Saga. But I think Philip Sequential did them really well. Some of them definitely took me by surprise. And this is one of the things that I always mention. People say that prophecies make the stories predictable. I disagree with this. I think a great author can actually make the story revolves around that prophecy and make them interesting and more unpredictable. And also, it can feel rewarding when that something happened, even if it's not the way we expected, but it still happened exactly the same way as the prophecies. It still can be very rewarding, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I think that just is a sign of, like you said, an author who's really talented and masterful at weaving a plot line that, despite the prophecy, doesn't feel like, oh, I know what's happening, I don't need to. It is harder, I think. I'm always fascinated with authors who choose to put the end of the book at the beginning.
The
So you
end
kind
the
of
book.
already know what's happening. And then as you work through the story, and if they're able to do that and still hold your attention and keep that tension really high, moving to the end of the book, and you're like, wait, how do we get there?
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think that's a sign of somebody who really knows what they're doing when it comes to plot.
I mean, when you think about it, one of the most popular series, The Kingkiller Chronicle, is doing exactly that, right?
Mhm.
We know that Kubo kinda, well, no spoilers here, but kinda ruined the world. So he's essentially telling his story about how, if we ever get to the conclusion, how he actually did that. Okay, yeah, but he managed, Rothfuss managed to keep us so interested, and I think, yeah, you're really right about this. I think it takes a great talent and careful planning to actually implement that.
Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, what is a trope that you are like, it's going to be really hard to get you to like a book with this kind of a trope in it?
I think the top one, love triangle. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Love triangle is just so hard. I mean, I'm not saying that it's impossible.
Yeah.
There are other fantasy books that love triangle happen, and I still end up enjoying them. But it's really hard. It's really hard. That, and also miscommunication. Sorry, it just drives me nuts when it happened way too many times. It just feels lazy after a while. I know that we human miscommunicate a lot. Miscommunicate a lot, and I get that. But I mean, let's take the most popular example here: The Wheel of Time. Doing that for 14 books and 3 million words. Come on.
Yep. Yeah, I love triangles. Like I feel bad because I think people have been like, Tori, do you just like hate romance in your fantasy books? I'm like, no, not necessarily, but it's so like, I don't know. It's hard. It is honestly really hard to do romance well, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. The other one and you don't find, I came from reading more YA fantasy and very quickly discovered that just wasn't for me. Because insta love is one of my other, like,
don't. It happens a lot in YA fantasy. It happens a lot.
Like, I can't. Like, we've known each other for 3 days and our love can move mountains, and I'm like, no. No.
Her blue eyes can shatter my heart. Oh my god.
Yep. Oh, the cringy YA fantasy days. Not saying all YA fantasy is like that, but a good majority does have a lot of that in it. And you know what?
When we're teenagers, we could enjoy something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know I have a lot of friends, like, I have a lot of friends who still read and love that. And I think, again, it's such a subjective reader thing. Absolutely no shade whatsoever to people who love reading about love triangles and
of course, no.
Love it. If you love it, that's awesome. I will send you all the recommendations. So Shad wants to know if you got the special edition of Blood and Fire.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see it. I think it will look super gorgeous.
I wish I had $1 million and could buy all of the special editions.
Nah, really, no need to force yourself if it's out of reach right now. There are so many special edition. I mean, I love them, but they are insanely expensive.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Chago, absolutely. Let's do a buddy read. Do a Quaintrell read along. We can get through it. Another Quaintrell reader up and coming.
I should show Philip C. Quaintrell this live chat.
You should, because I was really excited because I had noticed that too, where I had seen you talk about how much you loved his writing, and I was like, wow, this like sounds amazing. And I read the synopsis and I bought the first book, asked Philip what to start with. But I have been really surprised at how few people I've seen talking about his books. And I was like, well, this is like, there's a lot of reviews and this book has been sold everywhere. So I'm really surprised by that.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'm going to love it. And then I'll plaster it all over my channel. So, yeah, Chago referring to the Insta.
What is this?
Comments. Yes. Yep.
Love is a magic system.
Kind of like the joke about how a lot of there's all the cringy moments of a character releasing the breath that they didn't know they were holding, and how that's everywhere in fantasy. And yeah,
I'm starting to think that authors are intentionally putting them just to drive readers off.
I'm not gonna lie, there was a tiny part of me that was like, I kind of want to just throw one in my book and see who notices.
Oh my god.
Thiago, love is a magic system. Soft magic system, let's be real.
Oh, totally soft.
Nobody has a clue how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, well, if you want to take a moment to plug anything else that you want us to know about on your channel, or books that you want us to read, feel free to take. The floor is all yours.
Seriously, I don't have anything to say regarding my channel. I guess if you like reading fantasy books, maybe check out my channel, I guess. I'm not good at self-promoting. I'm not good at self-promoting like this.
Well, I'll give you a plug. I mean, this
yeah.
Petrik definitely was one of the people that pulled me back into fantasy when I got back to BookTube, and his reviews of books, whether they're video format or on Goodreads. If you're not following him on Goodreads, do that. Watch his videos, because you have such a awesome, and I know I keep using this phrase, but this infectious enthusiasm for books. And I get so excited about books when I'm watching your channel, and it kind of has rekindled my love of reading in a lot of ways. And it's just fun to see how much spotlight you're giving to self-pub and indie authors. And I think, speaking for all of us as a whole, we thank you enough for that, because the reviewers are incredibly important to the exposure of the books we write. So thank you for that.
Wow, thank you so much. That is super nice of you. I feel weird being praised like this.
So for everyone, all of Petrik's links are down in my description box. Go follow him on all the platforms, watch his videos, and especially go watch the video where he talks about self-pub versus traditional published fantasy. I thought that was a really great video. And also, if you want to just have a fun time, watch Petrik unbox something or talk about mismatched spines. Salty Petrik is excellent entertainment.
Yeah, thank you so much, seriously. And really, it means a lot. It means a lot to me that you invited me to your channel. Seriously, thank you so much.
I'm so honored to have you on my channel. I can't. It was great. So, all right, thank you guys so much for the chat. Wait, I'm curious about this question really quickly. Favorite donut shop?
Dunkin' Donut? I don't know.
Are you a donut fan?
No, I rarely eat donut. I mean, I like them, but I don't go searching out for them.
I am a secret donut fan. I have to admit, I do love a good donut. I don't necessarily go to shops. Small town bakery shops in Minnesota. If you ever come to Minnesota, Petrik.
I haven't ever been outside of Asia. If one day I go to America or United Kingdom, I will definitely talk about it.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I've never been outside the USA, so we'll have to do a swap.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining the chat, and feel free to leave comments. If you're watching this post live, feel free to leave us comments down below, and I will get to those. And if Petrik has free time, but
I will check back. I will check back once in a while.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.